It's been so long. Hi, this is Anna Imagination. I don't know what I am anymore. I've changed so much. I got to think about this. So, welcome to whatever the hell this is. I just got done with a conversation with one of my persons. He is a religious leader, and I am training him on Christ. And we got into alchemy, and I'm breaking down alchemy with philosophy Zarathustra. And there it is. This is the recipe. Zarathustra plus philosophy plus alchemy equals Christ. So I put all of that stuff together and to explain to him what Christ really meant. And Christ spoke in rebus, and he also spoke in direct and indirect, but he integrated them all, and then he spoke that. We call that Ashavana. So trying to explain all these different translations has been a challenge. And he's asking about wanting the end. There's a lot of focal point, and this is something that's very so there's a journey, and at the journey there's a destination. And a lot of people focus so hard on the destination that they ignore the journey, and then they go nowhere. They'll come to this massive boulder, they'll see this huge obstacle, and they'll just think about the fruit at the end of the journey and the reward. And they won't solve the problem of the boulder. So they sit and they go nowhere, and they spend their lives staring at the mirror of Erised and never living life. So there's a lot of questions, and there's a lot of constantly taking the focal point over here. Well, what about this? Well, what about this? Don't look at that. You can't even solve A. You can't even do one. Like, and there's basic stages. So there's like 6 stages just in the door, just to get there, just to begin the journey. You have to complete 6 stages. The 6 stages are the 6 trials, just to kind of prepare you for, imagine this. Imagine climbing Mount Everest. That's it. Everyone's climbing Mount Everest. So everyone's like, oh, and they're talking about the summit. And there's a lot of people who are like no equipment, and they're scaling, and they're only 2 feet off the ground, putting everything they've got into this scale. But they have no equipment, they have no map, they have no preparation. So then the other people are the people who have gone through the stores, grabbed a whole lot of paraphernalia that the tourists buy, and now they've got the tourist equipment, like a grab your own prepare kit, go climb Mount Everest, here you go, an easy dandy book. So they grab the tourist special, we're going to call it that, the tourist special, and they head out to Everest there. And then there's the people who say, well, I want to train. So then there's a whole lot of people, and they're like, oh yeah, let's get you training. And they'll go over it. They'll grab the tourist special. They go through the training, and there will be like a simulator, a Mount Everest simulator. And it's not at all a Mount Everest simulator. It is a kiddie ride that they give tourists to make them think they've climbed Everest. And afterwards, they're like, wow, that was amazing. Tourists. Now, then there's the actual pilgrim. This is the person who goes, I feel like I'm being cheated. I feel like I'm being lied to. Really? Was that's all that the wisdom journey was about? And they're starting to figure out that what they were told is the wisdom journey or the pilgrimage wasn't the pilgrimage. And they're going, okay, something's up. It cannot be that easy. No, it's not. And then there are the people who are handed the tourist special, and they know tourist junk when they see it. And they're like, yeah, I want quality because I actually want to climb Everest. He is someone who actually wants to climb Everest, but he's been handed a tourist bundle his entire life. So he keeps wanting to talk about what the tourist bundle focuses on. I'm going to speak very clearly here on the number 6. That's what he's talking about. He's wanting to know what 666 means. So 666 is the combination to the door. If you are aligned 666, there's the 6th ethic, and there's 3 applications of all the ethics. You have your ethical perspective, your identity's perspective, and your overall perspective. Once you are aligned on each perspective, that's when you go through the journey. But you have to be aligned, and you have to be aligned 2-2-2, and then you have to be aligned 3-3-3. Now, if you're aligned with all ones and then all twos and then threes, you won't have any problem. But you should have been 3-year-olds when that happened. At 3 years old, you would have been at 3-3-3 naturally. But trauma happened. This is where society steps in. They think they know better. And so all of our traditions disrupts this. So when we hit 3-3-3, it's always 3-3-3. That's when we started telling our parents no, and they beat us for it. That's actually us using our boundaries and practicing something in biology called telophase. So here we are practicing telophase on a meta level, and our parents are beating us for doing basic healthy telophase, or they're ignoring us, or they're punishing us, or they're reprimanding us because we are doing what is required for telophase. So telophase is a really uber awesome word in cell division, which is a stage of development that we go through in psychological physics where you break away from the parent. Exactly like a cell breaks away from the origin cell in telophase. So telophase is the third stage, and it aligns also with the ethics because science works that way. It's really awesome how everything synchronizes like a dance. So we get to the third ethic when we're supposed to be separated. In The Walking Dead, you get to see this with Carl. You know that episode with Carl's pudding? Yeah, he hit telophase. That's what that was. That is why it was that fallen idol, and he's looking at his father, joining me, Dad. And then you see Carl, that was the telophase stage. So that's it. That's what I'm talking about. So you break off at telophase, but if you actually had healthy, good parenting, this would have happened at age 3. And then at 4 years old, you go into 4-4-4. At 5, you're at 5-5-5. And at 6, you're at 6-6-6. And then after that, you're fine. You go. But none of us are making it past 2-2-2 or 3-3-3. All of us are at 2-2-2 and 3-3-3. How do I know? Because 98% of us have mental illness. That's why. So 2-2-2 is when you have self-authority and you align on your second ethic. It means that your identity has self-authority. And your subconscious mind, your self-preservation system, has self-authority, and you've integrated them both so that conscious awareness, has self-authority. But if your identity never learned self-authority, your identity never learned self-authority. If you did, then you'd be really healthy and you'd be fine. But the problem is there's a divide. The self-preservation system learns that the identity isn't safe, and this creates a schism. So then the self-preservation system, this is autoimmune disease, the self-preservation system turns on the identity and destroys it. And as a result, you never learn self-authority from your identity. So really all you need to do is go back and learn 1-1-1 and then 2-2-2 and then 3-3-3 and you'll be fine. But getting people to get the fuck away from 6-6-6 has been a nightmare. So I have a lot of people who are hovering around, what's 6-6-6? What's 6-6-6? You're not there yet. You can't even change your own damn diaper. You're not going to be at 6-6-6. And and this is the problem, is there's a huge boulder in the road and everyone's focusing on the gate. Everyone's focusing on everything else. And as a result, they're not going to get there. So you have to go through the process. And it's that focal point. It's all about you disciplining your focal point. So focal point discipline is huge. Now, I've been studying Jesus and philosophy and all the religions all of my life. So I'll just summarize. Christ had about 2 missions. And he did a really good job with one of them. In fact, he did a phenomenal job with one of the missions. But the other mission, he failed miserably. If he hadn't, we'd all be at the kingdom of heaven right now. So he did not succeed. And I'm looking at him going, I know why. I'll just summarize. It's the Ashavana curse. The Ashavana curse is the minute you begin this journey, you can't speak. It's really annoying. You can't speak until the journey's done. The journey is about 30 years old. 30 years. It lasts 30 years. For the well-trained starting at birth and going all the way through it. I built an accelerator, so it should take you about 2 years if you got the math and you're honest. So when I finished it, the Ashavana curse was lifted and I was able to communicate it. And this is really the whole kit and caboodle. You can't cheat. You can't cheat. Cheating is not allowed. It's Rule number one of this entire thing, you can't cheat. Cheating means skipping the journey and taking the reward so it's premature fruit picking. You can't cheat. You premature fruit pick and you get an unripe fruit. Bottom line, you can't cheat. Mother Nature has really awesome anti-cheater things all over this journey. And the anti-cheater alarm system is intense. If you cheat at this, you get consumption and you get mental illness, which is consumption, and you get a whole lot of things wrong with you. No thing allowed. So if you don't learn how to discipline your point and keep off of the fruit, you're game over. You're cheating. You've got to focus on where you are and savor and every stage of the journey without rushing through. Impatience is cheating. So when you start to understand what Mother Nature considers cheating, suddenly you're going, oh yeah, okay, I'm totally cheating. Lying is cheating because when you lie, you are altering the journey to get to the fruit faster. You have done A, which is a catalyst, and you're going to get a symptom or a consequence. Cheating is basically writing a logical line and then trying to prevent the logical line from happening. So cheating is basically an offense to the logic line. You cannot attack the logic line. You don't like the way the logic line is written, you shouldn't write the line. So you have options. Writing the line is mandatory. You have to write the line. That's not an option. If you breathe, you're writing the line. You breathe, boom, you're writing. So you've got to learn how to live and write at the same time. And that's what we're not taught how to do. We're naturally doing this until we're around 2 to 3 years old when our parents step in and say, I know better than nature. And that's the problem. As soon as you think you know better than nature, you fuck up the timeline. You can't do that. So you have to learn how to write the line. You got to relearn how to do this stuff. The problem is, well, there's no handbook. That's why I'm here. So the next thing you want to do is you want to honor the sequence. You have to honor the sequence. Now, what this means is if A happens, then B is next, and then C is there. You've got to do the order. You cannot violate the order. You cannot rush it. You cannot skip it. You cannot avoid it. There you go. There's the rules of life. That's all of them. You've got to learn how to write the line, and it has to be done in order, and you can't rush it, you can't skip it, and you can't avoid it. You do these things and you will have karma. Karma comes down on you in descent. It's amazing. So these are the rules of life. You don't do these. Oh, and then there's lying. Lying is the other one. Yeah. Lying is when you alter the line out of order, which is the violation of the sequence. All of these are cheating. The other thing that people do is they take what wasn't written in their line. So that's theft. It's lying, cheating, and thieving. So these are basically the rules of life. You do these and you will have karma. And then karma comes in with its consumption and it rips you apart. So this is it right here. You do this and you're fucked. Now, there's two sides to this. There is you doing it on purpose because you're an ass. And then there's you doing it without purpose because you're ignorant. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is because you have one responsibility in life, and that's to learn. And that's huge. This is really what it comes down to. This is why you have to learn. But you got to learn the right stuff. This is the right stuff. This is the stuff we all needed to learn, because had our parents learned this, they would have been like, sweetheart, you really need to not do that to the child because that will disrupt their logical line and then they won't be able to ever get the fruit. But most importantly, they will violate the logic line that gets them to the fruit. And we don't know how to put them back. And at that point they would. So they would say, and then we'd have to put them back. It'd be a whole thing. So it doesn't matter if you're ignorant. It doesn't matter if you don't know. It doesn't matter. Karma has spoken. So if you violate these points, karma steps in. So now you've got a whole lot of people, about 98% of us, and no one has any idea. They did not get this education. They did not get it at all. Now, this is what Christ was trying to talk about. Now you see the problem. So this is where Christ stepped in and he was like, okay, let's try this. And he did what every person before him in philosophy has tried to do. And he did what everyone after philosophy has tried. Philosophers cannot communicate this. It was the biggest, weirdest thing. I'm going, we're wise. We're philosophers. We're magi. We're wise men. Why can't we do this? We know everything there is to know about linguistics. I know languages that people have never even heard of. What the fuck can't I communicate a simple so? There's this thing happening. And, well, Occam's razor. There's a curse. And it made perfect sense because I read Nietzsche. That man had this problem. And I'm going, Nietzsche was a genius. I had this problem. Jesus had this problem. We all had this problem. And Jesus was really advanced. Now, Jesus had another problem. It was the 2nd century. Wow. Second ethical perspective of society. So he had another problem. He really lacked vocabulary. Like he didn't have any of the physics vocabulary to say, okay, this is what's going on. You're in the tallow phase. Yeah, he couldn't say any of this. So a lot of it is significant lack of vocabulary. Real lack of vocabulary. And the Greeks did a really great job with this. The ancient Greeks had a lot of words for this. Like henosis. Henosis is one of my favorite words. Henosis. Henosis means the integrated whole of union. It's what we're all trying to do, people. It's henosis. And they had a word for it. And I'm going, technically I'm a henotic. That's what I am. I am a henotic. It means that that's where we're going. It's for Ashavana. Yeah. So I'm looking at this whole thing, trying to figure out how to correct and do what Christ really struggled doing. Aesop did this too. I was reading Aesop's fables and he was trying to do it too. We've all tried to do it. That's what the great books are, is a whole bunch of Ashavana going, okay, I got to give you a point. Did anyone get Ayn Rand? I heard what they did to the movie, so I know everyone fucked that up. Every Ashavana has tried to do this, tried to explain what's really going on. So here it is. Psychological physics terminology. Inside of our natural, uber awesome brains, we reach a point called the self-wisdom journey. A lot of people call that spiritualism. It's that, but it's natural. It's part of our brains. Psychologists don't know about this, so they call it mental illness and they call it schizophrenic. Yeah. So, no, it's the thing is, if you're not mentally stable, if you're not aligned at 666, before you go into this journey, you're going to have additional symptoms. You don't want metaphysical transformation mixed with borderline personality disorder. Believe me, you don't. So you really need to make sure that you take care of your mental health before this gets activated. Now, a whole lot of you are going, oh my God, that's me. I was me too. It's okay. You're going to be fine. So once you understand what's going on, that you just have metaphysical transformation, read Nietzsche. It will make sense to you. Thus spoke Zarathustra. That's what you need to read. When you read Nietzsche and you go, that's what they weren't schizophrenic. They had metaphysical transformation. So let's convert this over into something you're familiar with. Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland is a kid's version of trying to explain the self-wisdom journey. Now, the self-wisdom journey starts at the 6th ethic, but there's a whole lot of preparation that you're supposed to go through prior to the 6th ethic, so that when the 6th ethic happens and you're aligned, the door opens and you can begin the journey. No one has gotten through. I've checked. It's infuriating. There are certain symptoms and signs, certain words you use when you're through, certain words you don't use once you're through. Yeah, no one's using those words. So that's how I know. I'm like, oh yeah, no one. If you are through it, you're using certain words and you've stopped using other words. For instance, if you're using the word feminine or masculine, you didn't make it through. You are definitely not through, because the very first thing you do when you hit the 7th is you stop using those words because you know. Same thing with hierarchy. You stop using that word because as soon as you make it through the 7th, you know, and you go, oh, those words are garbage, and you stop using those words. So right away, those are 3 words. So everyone's saying, and I'm like, yeah, you're not through. I'll have a conversation with someone and they'll throw those in there. And I'm like, yeah, you don't know. No, you don't know. You haven't gotten through. You're still on the other side of the mirror. Alice in Wonderland. So trying to explain this really complex, surreal and abstract, psychologically in-depth topic. And this is it really. It's an academic discipline. Boom. That's really what this is. This is an well, it's not undiscovered. We've known about it for thousands of years. In fact, in the year 700 BCE, Zarathustra perfected it. And then the Romans promptly took it away from us. So this is an academic discipline. It's called the discovery of the self. It's the self-discipline. And it is the core of all the disciplines. So you have 7 academic disciplines broken into 3 parts. So you have 21 subgenres of the academic disciplines. So sometimes you'll hear me saying there are 7, sometimes you'll hear me saying 21. This is why. And you have these academic disciplines. So when you have these 21 academic disciplines, one of them, like the core heart of all of these, is the self. That's called philosophy, but it's the self. And no one is studying this one. This is big. So when Zarathustra created the academic discipline called the science of self and God school, he literally put it into this gorgeous little thing, which was quite huge. And then he spread it all over the world. This concept became the core to all religion, all everything, and it was the summation of everything prior to it. So all of the world for literally about 7,000, 10,000 years, 10,000, let's go back to 10,000 BC. That's where we start seeing evidence. From 10,000 BCE all the way up to BCE, people were working and building this thing until it integrated right into a gorgeous vector that led right into where Zarathustra said, okay, I've condensed it. I've put it all, here are the common denominators. It's done. Cyrus the Great loved it. He was the king of Assyria at that time. And he took it and said, oh, I'm spreading this everywhere. And he did. Cyrus the Great took this and he handed it everywhere. Their students were Confucius, Pythagoras, these guys, Euclid. These were their students. They went, holy shit, this is amazing shit. So then Confucius went off and did Confucianism. And then Pythagoras got together with him and said, oh, we're going to call this philosophy. It's Zarathustra stuff. So this spread beautifully for about 400 years without a problem. And then Rome happened. So we're going to set that away because that's a whole soapbox. I could talk for days on that topic. So the problem is we live in a Roman world. And this is Greek stuff. This is Arabic stuff. This is the stuff that came from Persia. This is Persian. So you have to know their psychology to read it properly. You need to understand the Greek psychology to understand it properly. The more you understand Greek and Persian psychology, the more this is going to make sense. It's like trying to study Confucianism while you're thinking like a Westerner. If you're a Valley girl trying to study Confucianism, that's right. Are you going to get Confucianism? And everyone's going, no, you're not. That's not how it works. You have to have the right psychology. So a lot of people, no one has the psychology. And the reason why is because you were all raised Roman. So when you're raised Roman, you're given their educational system, they didn't have values. You're given their priorities. You're given their crap. And we all know it. Now, here's the thing. We have this gorgeous natural subconscious mind. Now, what the Greeks did and what the Persians did is they said stuff like, it'd be amazing is if we had an entire society built off of the actual nourishment of our subconscious mind. That would be amazing. Not their words, I'm paraphrasing. And they said that would be amazing. So they built their entire culture around the natural subconscious mind. They literally built everything around the nourishment and development of it and Zarathustra's work. So they took Greek psychology combined with Zarathustra's mastery, combined with Mother Nature, the subconscious mind, and they integrated them. Boom. That's ancient Greek educational systems. Beautiful. That's why they're awesome for a while until Rome happened. So after Rome, everything was switched from that over to this. Now, Rome is anti-subconscious mind, anti-nature, which is why there's a problem. So now we are, let's fast forward this 2,000 years. 2,000 years later, now we got this Roman aged, and our subconscious mind is screaming, going, why does my mind feel like it's been broken? Well, 2,000 years ago. There you go. So trying to explain Jesus to people is difficult because their mind is Roman. So in order to get through any of this, you have to switch everything over to ancient Greek. Christ wasn't studying or teaching Christianity to people. He was teaching the ancient Greek culture to a bunch of Romans. That's all. He was just teaching what ancient Greek like for Romans. Now, in the ancient Greek culture, we have words for this. The words are exoteric and esoteric. These are the really fancy words for inside and outside. Outside, as in you're an outsider because you don't know, is an exo. If you're inside, because you know, yeah, that's called an esoteric. It's called it something a little different called sasanak. We're all waiting here, guys. Come on, catch up to me. Sasanak. Outlander. That's it. Sasanak is the Scottish word for exoteric. The question is, what's the Scottish word for the insider? It would be called. Now, ancient Greek had that as well. You had the and the esoteric. Now, let's turn this over into the academic disciplines with any kind of a study. This is really important because this is where racism comes from. When you see another culture or other genders, you're not one of them. I am an esoteric of men. I'm not one. I am an esoteric of women. When I look for my medical doctors, I only allow women because I want an esoteric. I don't want an exoteric telling me anything. I want an esoteric. This is the language. So when you decide to pick up a vocation, when you decide to become a writer or a musician what you are really doing is consciously choosing to go from being an exoteric into the esoteric of that profession. You are that profession when you've become an esoteric. Education is the science of moving your perspectives from the exoteric stages into the esoteric. This is referred to as the inside. There. Now, that is what we're doing with the self-wisdom journey. When you begin life, you begin as an exoteric of the self. You are on an esoteric journey to become an esoteric of the self. Now, when you do that, it's really fucking intense, and it's a process. The first 6 stages of this process is the training. You're all in the training ground. You cannot go through this until you are stable and aligned, which is referred to as 666. You have to be at the 6th ethic with your subconscious mind, your self-preservation system. Your identity has to be at the 6th perspective, and your conscious awareness has to be at the 6th perspective. 666. Once that happens, you open the 7th. Now you've begun the journey. That's when your language changes. That's when you go, holy shit. Yeah, big difference. Big difference. After you get to that point and you're in, you are now moving through. There's a 4-stage door. The door is 4 ethical perspectives long, 7th and 9th, 6th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. So at the 6th, you find the door. The 7th, 8th, 9th, you get through it. This is the metaphysical transformation. This is where Nietzsche wrote his book. This is where Nietzsche was. This is where Van Gogh was, guys. And this is where Thomas Wayne was when he did his cats. This is the metaphysical transformation. This is schizophrenia. No, it's not. It's just the door. Now, once you get past the 9th ethic, you enter into the abstract. And that's where now, this is where philosophy begins. That's just where philosophy begins. Now you're ready. But most people, and this is really what it comes down to, is most people have no idea what they're doing, what they're looking for, because they're looking for orientation. They are disoriented because they've been lied to, and now you've triggered the pursuit of truth. So there are 3 things inside of a human being. You touch these 3 things and game over. You can't fuck with a person's nourishment. You can't. You fuck with this and it becomes all about getting this. You can't fuck with the person's freedom. You touch this and everything becomes about the pursuit of freedom and getting it back. And you can't fuck with a person's truth. You fuck with this and they become obsessed with finding it. That's where everybody is. Everyone's realized that the truth that they were told is bullshit. So everyone's looking for it. That is all I focus on, is the truth, and then how to turn that truth into your freedom so you can go get your nourishment. That's the journey. But that's, again, just the first 6 stages. That's just to get you to the door. Then you can align, orient, put yourself into the right position. You got to get your 1-1-1 in place, your 2-2-2, your 3-3-3. So right now, everyone is trying to get at 1-1-1, but they can't because there's a whole lot of people interfering with the truth factor. Then that's really it. It's the truth factor. I'm going to write that down. It's a really nice podcast. Is that the truth factor? The truth factor. So this is what's going on. Now, this is where Christ was trying to teach people. This is basically an academic discipline of the self. And he talked about the reward, and then people just obsessed about the reward. And it's like, get your dumbasses off the focal point of the reward. You've got a boulder in your road. You got to fix the boulder. But everyone wants to just focus on the reward. Well, if I'm good, you're still not going anywhere. That's not how this works. You are on an exoteric, you're an exoteric of self. The rewards Christ talked about are inside of us. The kingdom of heaven is not literal, guys. It's all metaphorical. It is a state of being. I can translate it into Akkadian if you want. It is a state of being. It is where you go so that you can access the alchemical book and the universal clock so that you can really do some amazing shit. It's amazing. So that's it really. It's just a state of being. It's an alchemical position. But he didn't have the word alchemical back. So he can go around saying, yeah, you just need an alchemical state of being with all your emotions so you can put them in a recipe and there you go, done. But in order to get this alchemical cocktail, you have to accumulate all the recipes, or the ingredients for the recipe. The ingredients of the recipe are the ethical perspectives and the ethics themselves, which are states that you get along the journey. So you're on a scavenger hunt. It's really amazing. So you're basically going around collecting all of these really uber awesome pieces for these recipes, and that way you can put them all together and poof, there you go, alchemy. The problem is, and this is where the education is a huge factor, what we think emotions are, we're wrong. And what we think is a feeling isn't. And what we think is an emotion isn't. And that's why a lot of people are really messed up right now, is because they don't even have their emotions straight up. So your emotions are literally an apothecary shop. And someone walked in and removed all the labels, took 5 bottles, left them on the shelf, replicated those 5 bottles, and then changed all the labels on those 5 bottles and said, here you go. And you're in the apothecary shop grabbing all these recipes and you're going, it's because your alchemy's messed up because someone fucked with the labels, which is why truth matters. So now you got to go back to the beginning to reset your entire system. And that's what you're all doing. You're trying to reset your system by going back to the origin. There's 2 origins. There's one origin, but there's 2 origins. There is one origin, but there's 2. The origin is where you're starting, and the purified version of that origin, the big motherlode of the origin, which is at the end. But it's a magnet. It's a string. So this is a sample of this trying to get here. But you can't get here until you stabilize so you can follow the right thread through. You can't do that until you find the right thread. Someone switched out your threads. That's the problem. You figured out, see that logic line when I told you you have to write your line? That's what I was talking about. So you have to find your logic line so you can connect it to the right truth, the truth. And that's the problem, is some asshole, Rome, came along and replaced the truth with Rome. So here's Rome and here's truth. And now you got a bunch of assholes following the Rome line. And that's it right there. You're following the Roman line. The moon is split. So if you're following the Roman line, you're going to get Roman bullshit because they had a different god, the god of lies. So they took the truth line and they removed it. The only way to get back to the truth line is to literally reject all of Roman concept from your mind. And that's what I do. That's exactly what I do. I'm a professional at rejecting Rome. So that's all I have to say about that. This is the part where I really struggle wrapping things up because I just don't know how to do that. Oh my God. No, I don't want to do that. I don't know. There's a whole lot of stuff to say in the comments. Just read that. Talk to you later. Thank you. May the kindest of words find you.